Hey folks, Ed Szewski here, author of Reconnect, Spiritual Restoration from Digital Distraction, here to talk to you a little bit about the ways that social media divides us, and then I'll offer some ideas about what we can do about it. So if you've seen any of the hearings with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, or if you've seen him kind of give his marketing pitch for Facebook, you've heard him say that, I believe the mission of Facebook is to bring people together. That's our missions. We bring people together. And that kind of has always been the marketing line. That's Ellen Powell of Reddit has shared there's this kind of homogenous white young male idealism that was infused throughout Silicon Valley, that they were going to make the world a better place, and we're going to bring people together, unite us, and there's a truth to that. We wouldn't use social media if it didn't bring us together in some positive ways. But there's also kind of a dark side to that bringing people together, or that uniting. And that it unites people with people who can also do hateful things. It unites people with divisive ideas, misinformation or disinformation that's deceiving them. And then also, as a result of bringing people together, sometimes with this bad information or misinformation, we end up being more divided. Actually, we can actually end up in these echo chambers where algorithms kind of keep feeding us the things that we want more of, and so people end up basically just getting their news or getting their information from a limited number of sources that direct them in a certain way, make them feel a certain way. It kind of almost becomes addicting. So like social media brings us together, but it also can really divide us, and that's what we're seeing right now playing out. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because we have an election coming up. We have a once in a lifetime pandemic that's raging around the world, and has been completely mismanaged by our president in America and his administration. So I want to just talk about some ways that we can use social media in positive ways, life-giving ways, ways that can help us, ways that can hopefully save lives. I want to give a local example first. I'm part of a protest in our town in Murray, Kentucky, to remove a Confederate monument on the court square. It's on public property, and yet it's the one war that we're commemorating is the Confederate cause in the Civil War. The fountain was created with a fountain that was whites only. It was facing the black part of town, which is not the black part of town anymore, because there were fires and racially motivated attacks on the black community in the 1920s when the statue was erected. So it was created at a time when white supremacy was being exerted in the face of the civil rights movement. Everything about the statue is racist and terrible, and yet people defend it because it says in loving remembrance of Confederate soldiers on it, while prohibiting black people from drinking out of the fountain and violently chasing black people out of town. So loving remembrance. So anyway, I'm part of a group that is calling for its removal, to relocate it to like a cemetery or some other place where it is more appropriately remembering the Confederate cause, without making a public statement that our town supports the enslavement of black people. It should be a no-brainer. It's not. And actually, the townspeople are sharing stuff on Facebook, saying that we're violent, that we're busing in agitators from the outside. I think the subtext is like Antifa or black people to agitate and be violent. And here's the truth: like, we come to these protests with our kids. All right, there are other people with their kids there too. It is completely family friendly, and we have done nothing to be a threat to the people or to their beloved monument. We haven't threatened to spray paint it or graffiti it, and yet people come out with guns. People come out with tear gas and not tear gas. I'm sorry, mace. And so but they read this stuff on Facebook, and they get riled up about how there's all these outside agitators being bussed into town. A realtor in our town named Pat Cherry wrote an opinion piece in the Murray Ledger and Times, kind of hysterically decrying these horrible protesters who are infiltrating this town with their violence. And it's the complete opposite. It's the people. We don't have any guns. We have all the people supporting keeping the statue. They're the ones who are in support of carrying guns, and I've seen all these people coming with open carrying their sidearms. So anyway, social media is riling people up and spreading this misinformation, and it's making our community unsafe. And we're seeing this also nationally in Portland right now too. And of course, there are always going to be agitators who take advantage of a protest uh, to get to loot or to do graffiti or whatever. That's going to happen. No one who wants justice and equality would support that. But that kind of gets amplified on social media as look at these agitators, and so then now we have people coming into Portland with to kind of confront them in the streets, kind of as vigilantes. So we have to be aware of how social media is being used to amplify misinformation, to get people stoked and to get them agitated. So maybe someone who would just kind of stay at home and kind of quietly mind their own business, now they're getting riled up and they're going to show up and ready for a fight because they think that there's some kind of lawless force in their town. So we need to be aware of that. So those are a couple of examples that we're seeing right now. And here's the thing, like social media and just that whole attention economy practice, whether you're a social media influencer, you're a part of the media, like using incendiary stuff, using stuff that will get people riled up, that's just common. That's just going to happen. And so we have to be aware that that's the system, the way that people earn attention and make money. And so we have to be aware of that. And that's going to be left or right, libertarian, whatever. Whatever you believe, that's how you get attention. And so everyone's going to use that, that tactic of getting people emotionally stirred up. The problem is that there also is an intentional kind of right-wing ecosystem that is feeding into it and feeding it false information. And that's kind of where this gets really dangerous because research has found that to get noticed on social media, you go to the extreme. You say the more extreme position, whether that's left or right. The more extreme your positions, the more likely you are to get noticed and amplified and to show up in algorithms. And that fake news always outperforms. And when I say fake news, I mean intentionally fabricated, made up stuff that's designed to get you riled up. That stuff always outperforms reality because it's more engaging. It's designed to be engaging. It's gaming the system. And so the people behind Facebook, they just want engagement. They want more clicks. They want people to use it more. And so if it's a made-up news story, that's fine with them for the most part. And so we're just seeing Twitter start to kind of crack down on made-up fake news. The president was retweeting a QAnon conspiracy post about the numbers of COVID being reported. And so Trump is pumping up this made-up stuff, and it's going to travel really well because it's plays into confirmation bias. That people are already suspicious of the CDC because they've been being fed all this misinformation about the CDC on social media for months now. And so we have a lot to think about as we have violence in our cities that's being kind of amplified and distorted on social media. I'm seeing it in a small town, Murray, Kentucky, and so it's going to be a problem other places too, where people are convinced because of things they've seen on social media, manipulated pictures or whatever, that there's somehow violence and stuff in their cities, and really it's just a bunch of families pushing their kids in strollers and some college students showing up in the town to demand that a racist statue be removed. So what should we do about this? I mean, we could get angry, we could shout more, but I think there's three ideas that I have as far as how to respond to this misinformation, how to respond to this stuff. So first of all is just to look at the fruit. How is this driving you? How is this feeding your emotions? Are you as a Christian, am I being led by love and compassion for my neighbor? And so the people who are being deceived by this stuff, they're my neighbors too. I want them to be healthy, to be safe. I don't want any harm to come to them. So when people are sharing all this stuff on social media about people being bussed in, like these are people that are in the same parenting group that I'm on Facebook. And so on the one hand, we're like sharing recommendations for where to take our kids to play, and then the next hand, they're going off to share about these dangerous rioters in their town, and it's just their neighbors pushing a stroller with their kids and a sign saying remove the monument. So we have to have compassion and think about how these social media tools are impacting us and how they're making us feel and how we're making us think to our neighbors, and are these undermining the work of God in our lives, the fruits of the Spirit of love and joy and peace. And so that's first of all, is how is your use of social media making you feel? How is it driving you? And is it undermining what God wants to do in your life and how God wants you to respond to your neighbors? The second thing is, share what's true and helpful. That's one of my things that I've been thinking about. Is I've tried to really move away from, kind of my rage posting on Facebook and Twitter. I want to share good information. I want to get away from stoking emotional distress on social media. So what can I share that will help people make better decisions about their health? So we have this coronavirus, right now. How can we help people make better choices about the masks they wear, about safe practices? The vaccine right now, there might be a need for 2 doses of the vaccine, and we already have, some studies are estimating that 40% of Americans don't even want a vaccine because it's supposed to go away like a miracle. That's what the president told them. And it's just a hoax. I have people showing up on my Facebook page saying that the whole virus is a hoax of the Democrats. So, how do we help people make better decisions about choosing to get this vaccine and to make safe, healthy decisions? So let's share stuff that isn't going to get people emotionally riled up. Let's focus on facts. Let's help them make good decisions when they vote, and not feed despair. Whether that's content from left-wing or right-wing sites or whatever, let's try to find stuff that will just help people make good choices. And finally, just beware of that impulse sharing of just when you see something and you share it right away. I encourage you to read it, to dig down into it. Make sure it's from a reliable source. Check out where it's from. And we have a pandemic and an election where people need good information to make good choices. And so, and if you make a mistake, admit it. Like I had been, relying on a study out of, I think it was South Korea, saying that the coronavirus didn't spread as much through kids. And it turned out that study had a pretty small sample size. And so there were some people, doing follow-up articles, to clarify that actually wasn't as helpful as we thought. And so, we should share that too and admit, when we get something wrong, that, hey, like this, there's new information coming out. And so there's a humble aspect too to how we use social media. It isn't like this zero-sum war. It's a chance to share information to help people make good choices. So, let's think about how we can love our neighbors. Let's think about how we can take care of each other, and to speak to people in a time when it's really easy to get divided. Let's stick with facts and with good information and humbly just serving each other with what we share. And we're going to get through this together. And I think that it's easy to get into a despair spiral if you use social media a lot. It's easy to doom scroll about all the horrible things happening. The truth is that there are a lot of really good people working to collect good information that will help us. And let's make that easier to find. Let's try to move away from the despair and the anger that is dividing us, and we'll get through it. So thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it.